joined by another wonderful volunteer, Chase James. Thank you for joining us today, Chase.
Thank you for having me.
So we'll start off easy. When did you begin helping out at the shelter?
So I began helping at the shelter my sophomore year of high school, where I had just it's called a Life Scout in Boy Scouts. It's the rank right before, oh my gosh, wait, no, it was Star. So the one right before Eagle. And I needed service hours to rank advance, and I wanted to do something that was meaningful to me. You know, a lot of people, the troop has a connection with the food pantry, so a lot of people just go there to get their hours done. But I wanted to do something more meaningful to me and my family, like big animal family. So I decided to do my hours at the shelter. So after I got my hours done, I was like, oh, I really enjoy doing this, and I just continued doing it for the years, and so I think now it's been like 2.5.
Wow, that's awesome. What are some of the duties that you've taken on at the shelter?
So usually, all right, so we get there at 10 a.m. every Saturday, and we first walk around, see who's here, what's been done. Most of the time, you're just one of the first people arriving there, and there's different sections of the shelter. There's the cat room, and then there's a quarantine room, and there's a dog room, and there's a main entrance area. So usually my mom and we usually volunteer together. So we go to the quarantine room because that's where the cats are usually out of the kittens or the ones that are slightly sick. So it's pretty interesting to get to see their progression usually through the weeks, because when you first see them, they'll probably look really bad, have some disease, and actually over time, it's interesting and really nice that they get better. So we enjoy spending our time in the quarantine room. So a lot of times, a lot of kittens. And recently, my dad's been coming too. He spends all of his time outside, so we don't see him when we're there.
So he doesn't have a favorite room. His is outside.
Exactly.
Outside.
Yeah. Actually, last time he was waxing the Mobile Pet Pantry. That's what he spent his time doing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Leading into that, the Mobile Pet Pantry, would you like to get into where the idea came from?
100%. So it started after volunteering for a couple months. I realized that I wanted to do my Eagle project also with the shelter. So I was looking for something around that you could see that needed help, maybe like a shed or something like that. But when you first walk into the shelter, on your right, there's this big, gross, dirty bin. That used to be where the donations were put in place, and it looked really bad. So I knew I wanted to do something related to that. But it wasn't until I think I was having lunch one time with my parents, and we were just talking about ideas to make a bin of some sort. And I think it was my dad, he came up with the idea to make it mobile, so that not only could we pick up and drop off donations at the shelter, but also do it in other places like grocery stores and things like that.
Where does the Mobile Pet Food Pantry go?
Recently, it's been going to the food pantry because when families are going to pick up food for themselves, we park the trailer at the end of the line to get the food so that people could veer off and also get food for their animals as well. Most of the time it's just sitting in front of the shelter so you can see it when you walk in, but it goes all over the place.
Awesome, very cool. So what was your experience like when it came to fundraising?
Well, my experience fundraising started out definitely more on the slow side. My first idea was to make a sign and stand in front of Stop and Shop. So I did that for 4 weeks. It was really cold. It was in the end of fall. It was not fun, but it was nice to get to meet some people face to face. A lot of people didn't know about the shelter, so it was nice to give it some exposure doing that. One of the more meaningful donations that I had, I was walking into Roche Brothers, and there was a veterans organization called the Korean War Veterans that were sitting outside asking for donations. And so after standing in front of Stop and Shop for 4 weeks and it not going so well, I had some empathy for, he'd later become my friend, but Paul was doing. And I walked up, gave him $5, and I had my Boy Scout uniform on, actually, and we sparked up a conversation. And really awesome people at the Korean War Veterans Association, but they actually invited me to go to one of their meetings so that they could potentially sponsor my project as well.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. And it's cool that you made the connection based off, you know what it's like to stand out in the cold in front of the grocery store. And you know that he's putting in that time and that effort, and he might not be making what he's hoping for and things like that.
Yep.
That's really cool. It's cool that it worked out for you anyway, that they could jump on it too.
Yeah, they were actually one of the largest sponsors, and they have the largest logo on the side as well.
So how did you raise that money?
After 4 weeks, give or take a week, of asking for donations, I realized that I needed to change something up. I wasn't going to meet the required funding in order to make this happen. So I had to make some changes. And my family and I, we came up with the idea to just walk into businesses in town and ask them to sponsor. And I made this sheet of paper, and I gave them details about donation options on the sheet of paper. So I'd walk in and to businesses and ask them if they wanted to participate in donating to my project in exchange for their logo to be put on the side. And I did that for a couple weeks, and I made probably 5-7 times what I did that 4 weeks just standing there.
Wow.
So I was really happy that I learned that you can either do things slowly and the hard way, or you can change things up, take some risks, and make your life easier, and help businesses and the trailer at the same time. So I was happy we had that opportunity. Once you go see the pantry, you're going to see a bunch of town logos all over the place, and that's because they donated money. So the bigger the logo, the more money they paid.
What did it take to build it?
That took a lot of time on Facebook. My mom showed me some strategies to go to Facebook Marketplace and other eBay places like that you can buy things like shelving materials, shelves. It was a lot of making things that were already made and turning it into something else.
Cool.
Like when I first found the trailer, it was just a normal trailer. I think it was used for dirt bike storage. And you could see like the lines in the floor where people would put their dirt bikes. So we had to do a lot of things to the pantry to make it what it is.
What was the building process like?
The building process was it was faster than I thought. It was mostly over the summer of 2022, where majority of my time up to the project I'm working on it was fundraising. And then when I finally got enough money to purchase the trailer, that was definitely a big chunk of my money. Then I was working from there what I can use with the rest of the funds. So it was I needed to get it wrapped and put all the logos on it. That was $2,000. So I think that's $5,000 with the trailer and then the wrap. And then I had $2,000 to do whatever I needed to do with that. So we had a lot of people donate materials on the inside, like shelvings, little baskets. Like on Facebook Marketplace, we were intending to purchase it. I had the money ready, and this nice lady from Duxbury said, no, I don't want you to pay for this. It's my donation. So a lot of people were really nice like that.
Were there any other unexpected problems that you ran into when it came to putting the whole project together?
Absolutely. So a little bit going back to the building process, one of the biggest challenges we had was putting in, if you go up to the trailer, you'll see a drop-in door on the side that says donate food here.
Oh, cool.
And so it's actually a trash bin, a big metal trash bin, and it's where people put the food in, close the door, and then it falls into this large bin on the inside of the trailer. And that was definitely a challenge because we had to cut out a hole. My dad was helping us because you don't want a bunch of Boy Scouts just using power tools on a metal trailer. That's not a good idea. So we came up with this plan to cut a square box in the side. And what we didn't realize was that there's a bunch of support beams that are important for structural integrity.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to build out external supports on the inside and outside of the trailer to help make up for all that lost structural support. That was definitely a challenge, but it was really interesting to see, like, okay, if you're going to do something like this, we're going to expect some of these kinds of setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably the largest one.
I think that's really cool that it has a drop-off. It kind of reminds me of like when you return a book when you're a kid and you slide it through the slot.
Yeah.
But that's also really convenient because then nobody has to be at the trailer 24/7.
That's one of the reasons why we did that too, is because we wanted distinct times where people can donate and then also receive the donations.
Very cool. How have you seen the shelter evolve since you've been involved?
So from volunteering every Saturday, over time you meet new faces. So definitely one of the things that has evolved is the people that are coming, as well as seeing more and more people start to foster the animals, especially volunteers. For example, our cat Bruce, really nice guy now, but when we first got him, not a lot of volunteers wanted to talk to him or play with him or see him, because he did seem pretty mean and scary. We kept his name Bruce because he reminds me of Batman. He has big bad ears. He's ominous looking. He's a nice cat though. So a lot of times people will start fostering animal, and then after like 4 months, then they'll decide to either bring him back, but that doesn't really happen. So most of the time, they'll just adopt, like we did for Bruce.
So was Bruce a foster fail, as they say it, like a foster fail? He stayed at home.
Yeah.
He stayed Miss Foster forever. Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who might be looking for ways to help people or animals in their community?
I would say definitely just get involved. Once you find something that you're interested in, like I did with animals, you you want to be more involved with your community and you want to help rather than just doing something that isn't as meaningful to you. So I would definitely say find something that you really care about and then try your best.
What is something that you wish more people knew about the animal shelter?
Just knowing the important work that the people that go there do, specifically the animal control officers. When I first volunteered there, I wasn't expecting to see somebody in what looked to be a police uniform there, but what's important to know is they do a lot of work to help bring animals that are on the street and bring them into homes. So they're a really important resource for the shelter and for the community, and I think that's definitely important for people to know. Shout out Allie and Courtney.
Out of all the animals that have come through the shelter, have you had any personal favorites?
100%. So we have this cat, as well as Bruce, that we got from the shelter. Her name's Kenya, and she is awesome. She looks like a mountain lion because she has really long ears and has a really good personality. And so rather than being slow to come around like Bruce, she was almost instant, and she's awesome. So I don't know if she always gets along with Bruce very well, but she's definitely my favorite because we've just always been friendly with each other, and it's really nice.
What do you enjoy about your work at the shelter? I know you said that you don't need your hours anymore, but you still go. So I'm guessing that there's at least a couple things you probably like about it.
Absolutely. Definitely the animals is my favorite. What's really nice but also sad for the volunteers is when the animals get adopted and to be able to see that. Because every week's different. Some weeks there's a lot of animals, some weeks there's not. But when there's not a lot, you think back and you're like, wow, this is actually really good because that means that instead of being in here, these cats are in their homes, which is really nice. So that's one of my favorite parts about volunteering is seeing the process from when they come here to when they eventually get adopted.
Which is awesome because it also shows that the volunteers, you guys are really making connections with the animals that you really care about them.
Yeah, that's one thing that's unique about the volunteers at the animal shelter. I'm sure it's similar in other shelters, but I've really noticed that the people that volunteer there really care about the animals and what they're doing, and they really want to be there. So that's really reassuring. I would recommend somebody go and volunteer at the shelter because it's great. I've done it for 2.5 years and I've loved it. It's really nice to see. I was lucky to be able to contribute something like the Mobile Pet Pantry to really help elevate the kind of impact that the shelter can have. So people should be interested in volunteering there because if you love animals and you want to help the community of Marshfield, volunteering at the animal shelter, which is, like we talked about, a resource in town that not everybody knows about, it would really bring some awareness to the animals that are there, the animal control officers. It's a great time. You meet a lot of great people. So it's definitely a large appeal. I'm very grateful I did that experience.
And I know the shelter is very grateful that you have done so much. I think that your impact, especially with the mobile food pantry, is very long-standing at this point. So thank you for that. And thank you for joining me today.
Of course, thank you for having me. That's
going to be all for today. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the Shelter Spotlight. We'll see you again next time.
For more on the shelter, please visit the Friends online or contact Marshfield Animal Control.